Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the topic at hand. And I'll do a screen share. So, what's interesting about this in preparing is that, I'm starting with basic stuff, and I don't know if it's too basic for you guys. You know what I mean? But maybe what we can do is I'll go because I prepare. So this time I usually do slides, and it's a good way to kind of have a springboard to go into the topic. Um, so we're Kim or Barbara. I don't think Paola, but I can't remember. I'm so sorry. I forgot from last week. That are any of you doing this for the certificate?
I am not.
Oh,
no.
good. Okay. And Paolo also, right? Good, because that allows me to kind of be more flexible, and I don't have to be so rigid in the outline. So so last week I didn't have slides, correct? Yes, I did not.
Right.
So I was just going to review a little bit about, just so you have all the content. Yeah. So you just have all the content. We talked towards the end about the 7-point posture Vairocana or Vairocana. And if you want any details, just raise your hand, just interrupt me. But we talked about the legs, the legs being crossed. You can do lotus or just cross leg or right foot on top of your thigh. You can sit in a chair too. If you're in a chair, probably better your feet are flat on the floor. Okay, like Maitreya, Buddha. Hands and arms, the right hand on top of the left hand. Typically, it's sometimes we reverse it. There are times when you put the left hand on top of the right and the thumbs touching. If anyone interested why the right hand on top of left? Anyone know?
No.
Okay. So, well, there may be many reasons, but the reason I understand is that right side of our body is the method or compassion side. The left side is the wisdom side, female, right is male. And so it links the two. And the right hand on top is just a symbolic gesture. Maybe there's biological, probably some level of meridians or energy flow, I'm sure, that emphasizes the method side. So when we're meditating, it's a method, correct? It's an intervention, it's a technique. But sometimes when you put the left hand on top of the right, you can do that, particularly when you're meditating on emptiness or wisdom. Okay. So there may be other reasons too. Now the back is straight, as you remember, it's not rigid. It's very important. The back is straight with the crown of your head with your coccyx, and so it's a straight line, not rigid. You know all that. But you do see people, if you go to yoga classes or other meditations, they're sitting very stiff like that. We don't want to do that. That's not how we do. It's like, I remember, I think it was Lama Yeshe described, said, you put the body in this position so that you can forget about it. So the body's not, there are meditations on the body, of course, but it's not the primary source of meditation. The primary is the mind itself. And in fact, even when you're meditating on the body, you're meditating on its influence on the mind. So you really want to be able to just say, leave it there. Now, a good way to do that is lying down, relaxing, lying down. But the problem with that is it's easy to fall asleep for most of us. But you can do that too. If you don't fall asleep and you don't get drowsy, lying down on your back is a valid way to meditate. I don't think you do it on your stomach. I've never heard that. You could on your right side when you're dying. So when you die, you lie on your side and you close your right nostril. I think with this finger, I'm not sure. I can't remember which finger some finger you close this right nostril with. That's how Buddha passed away. The eyes are downcast. Should not be tightly closed. It depends on your style. I always close my eyes. But there is an argument many times for leaving them slightly open. It keeps one from getting too drowsy. And I always thought, well, it makes you distracted. But in fact, as your concentration improves, then you actually don't, having a little bit open doesn't distract you, just slightly open. but I find it a little bit more, I've always done it the other way. The mouth and jaw are just relaxed and not clenching your teeth. The You can look often. It's good to check for tension in your jaw. I don't know why we tend to hold tension in the jaw for some reason. Well, who knows why? The tongue is up against the front of the back and back of your top in back. Oh, it's on the palate, right? On back of the right behind the top row of teeth, or whatever you want to say. I don't know why I can't say that. Anyway, right behind your teeth. So that's supposed to keep you from drooling. And then your neck and head are in line, the neck slightly bowed. Okay. So that's the 7-point Vajrayana. So we talked about meditation and the breath, and I want to give you a little technique if you want it. I find it very useful. It's something I learned from a project I used to work with. Paolo, do you know about the Potential Project?
No, I don't.
The Potential Project that started, I don't know how long ago now, 15 years ago, as a secular program for businesses to develop mindfulness in the business setting or work setting. So it's not religious, it's secular. And I was doing some trainings for them, and because I used to do some work in businesses and companies and stuff. And so they developed a really simple trick to teach their clients mindfulness. So it's called the ABCD method. And I think, and if you want to teach it to other people, it's very useful. It's secular again. So we expand out of this, since we're in a Buddhist setting, we're going to go deeper, but there's nothing wrong with doing this. So the I'm just going to go quickly. A stands for anatomy. So that's all that Vajrayana, that's just your body. And it's about sitting in the proper posture. Of course, in the secular programs, they don't emphasize all these Vajrayana stuff. They just get you want you to sit straight in a chair or cross-legged. But we have more details that we just covered. So that's the anatomy. So you check your anatomy, and you check also for, in the anatomy, you look for tension in your body, and you release it. And then B stands for breath. So it's a matter, now this is all simple for us, but just a good reminder when we talk about breath and we teach it to new people, then what you really want to emphasize is that it's observing the breath. And a lot of people, they want to go control the breath. Have you noticed that? Maybe find it yourself. Now there are techniques and meditations that we need to do where we're actually trying to control the breath certain ways, certain kinds of breathing. That's true, but not this one. So this is a meditation on the breath. It's just watching it. Like I often tell people, it's like observing from a high floor of a sky-rise building. You're looking down at the traffic. If it's really light traffic, then it's moving, that's fine. If it's heavy traffic and congested, that's fine. You can't manipulate it, right? All you can do is watch it. So that's the point here. Now, as you watch it, as you know, the breath will slow down. It'll calm down on its own, usually, unless you're really agitated about something. C is for counting. And I like this because the counting here is 1 through 10. And don't ask me why, but it's on the exhalation. I do know why. The reason you count on the exhalation is because they say that when we get distracted, it's on our exhaling breath, not the inhaling breath. So I think it's a little device that if your mind's going to wander on the exhalation, maybe keeps a little in check because you're counting. And you count each exhalation up to 10. And then you go backwards to 1. And it's a really, really, really easy way to begin to develop a meditation practice. And then you just tell yourself, I'm going to do 30 of them, 3 rounds. So I guess it's 60, right? So you can do 3 rounds. I've timed it. It takes like 6 or 7 minutes. And that's a good meditation for a beginner, right? It's better than what they do, better than nothing. And it's actually good, and it's not too intense, right? And then the D, which is I like, I really feel is the most, well, it's not the most important thing, but important to add because there's a lot of mindfulness programs teaching this stuff, and they're not really meditation in the way that we mean it. They're mostly means to calm down. Yeah, Kim? Nothing? Okay. Yeah, your mic off, so I wasn't sure. And you can interrupt. You guys can pipe in anytime. I don't mind. We don't have 200 people here, so it's okay. So the D is especially potent for us. You can't find it? Kim's looking for her mute button. She found it, but we lost her picture. Okay, so Kim, you can keep it on. Oh, there you are. Okay, gotcha. So the D is really the true meditation for us who are interested in developing meditation. D is awareness of the distractions. So it's really important for us to remember the word awareness of distractions, not judging of distractions. We've never been aware that our mind is even distracted. Typically, people, before they meditate, they have no idea that the mind is constantly distracted and running. It runs from one thing to the next, doesn't it? So it runs this, runs that. So when we talk about meditation, remember last week we talked about the meaning of meditation is to become familiar. So there's no guilt or shame or discouragement when you have a lot of distractions, but you're doing the ABCD, or another form of meditation where, when we, for example, one of our meditations, and I don't think we'll get to it tonight, but we might get to it tonight, is meditating on the mind itself. So the mind, when you meditate on the mind itself, of course, you're meditating on the distractions, the potential distractions, right? So in this case, ABCD, all that you do when you, in this practice, as a simplified version of advanced practices, you just notice the distraction and you say, oh, there my mind goes again, and you bring it back to the breath. So noticing the distractions is the meditation. Okay, so one way you can do this, and I think it's depending on your level and comfort of meditation, what I suggest for beginners is they do ABC for either they do ABC for a week or two, or they do ABC and they do, like I said, maybe 30, 60, 3 rounds, and then just do the D for 3 minutes. So then they got like a 10-minute meditation. Usually all that people can handle in the beginning. Now, it's become so fascinating. If you've done this before, it's like, well, wait a minute. My distractions, they're hiding from me. You know what I mean? You find that all of a sudden they're hiding. It's like, where did they go? And I think that's just a fascinating meditation in and of itself. It's like, where did they go? And they don't like being looked at. So it is a device to calm the mind and get it more centered. It's like counterintuitive. If I pay attention, won't that make them more robust and more active? And the thing is, they only become more active if we have we get lost in them. So the difference here is, let me see if I got it. Yeah, there it is. But you've written it down, I think. Okay. So I'll get to, so what makes, I'll get to it in a few minutes. Just remind me when I get to that. I'll remember when I get to that slide. It's like, what makes distractions distractions? Actually, maybe anybody have an idea? What makes a distraction a distraction? You can unmute if you like. If you don't know, that's okay too. But
I guess I look at a distraction as I'm doing one thing, and then either thinking one thing or doing one thing, and then something else comes up and I go in a different way. I go in a different path. Okay.
I'll speak to that in a minute. Anybody else want to say what makes a distraction? I don't disagree. I agree. Anyone else have an idea how they would phrase it?
Again, I would say anything that takes us away from our original purpose.
Okay. Paola, do you have anything to add?
I like the way Kim put it.
Okay.
I think what Kim said, yeah.
Okay. It's unfortunate you're crackly. I'm so sorry. Are you in a different place tonight than
I'm
last week?
sorry too.
Yeah, are you in a different place tonight than last week?
No, it's the same place. It's my house, but the connection's just how it is. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
okay. I'm just
That's
sorry.
okay. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry for you. Last week was better, I think, than this week. So what makes the mind go off to something else?
We lose our
The
focus.
process of multitasking. I mean, we've got all these thoughts coming in per second, and they're just, I mean, we're surrounded with distractions.
But why do we follow them? What is the mechanism that gets us? So let's say I have coming through my mind, I'm thinking about the class, I'm thinking about dinner, and I'm thinking about, is it going to rain tomorrow, right? That kind of thing. That's what we're talking about, right? And I'm supposed to be watching my breath, and I'm thinking about, are my kids going to come visit this weekend, and wondering if are they vaccinated, like that. So, and some people seem to have more of those, some people have less. So those are occurring in the mind, right? What is the mechanism? It's okay if you don't know, because I'm going to tell you. But what is the mechanism that makes it a distraction? So all those things, okay, if you have those things going through your mind, does that mean they're distractions? I guess that's my question.
My thought is if I'm doing a meditation or I'm focusing on my breath,
Mm-hmm.
a thought comes up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a distraction if I start following it.
Right. So
It's
what?
going to come up. It's a distraction if I go with it.
Right.
Whereas it's like bringing the puppy back to the newspaper.
Right.
They're trying to train it. Just
Right.
keep bringing it back, bringing
Right.
it back.
Right. Okay. Your guys are on it. Let me see if I can find my special slide for this. I don't want, there we go. That's the problem. So what happens when you're watching the breath and your thought of your kids coming to visit him, right? It is a thought, but I don't call it a distraction. It's a distraction, like you said, when you follow it. And we follow it because we cling to it. And if a clinging isn't there, the mind's not distracted. Does that make sense? And the reason we cling, now we're going to go to our basic Buddhism, which see, the meditation on the mind, the whole Buddhist path gets revealed just by meditating on the mind. It becomes experiential. So if you're watching this process, and I'm sure you do, when you watch this, now it becomes fascinating because people will say, oh, I can't meditate, I get so distracted. And what they're missing is that that's the meditation. They just have to turn it around a little bit and they investigate. So remember I told you that the word for meditation in Tibetan is gom, to become familiar. So when I asked you, why does the mind get distracted? I'm just asking you to study it. And what you'll learn, I'm giving you the cliff notes, what you'll learn is that the mind is habituated to desire. So when you're watching the breath, the desire to watch the breath is much weaker because of attachment. It doesn't feel as good at our level or at the beginning level. What feels better is, oh, I wonder if my kids are going to come. Well, that'd be nice. Oh, see, maybe we'll go out for dinner. I don't know. Restaurants are only half full. See, 50%. Maybe we can make some. We have a taco bar, right? Is that what you guys do? Yeah. So, but now let's look at the familiarity part of that. That has to do with desire, doesn't it? Okay, very basic. So, you know, when we're beginning Buddhists, you know, when we first heard about Buddhism, we probably heard about desire. And it seemed like, oh, I desire that woman, or I desire that Porsche, or I desire that new house, or I desire that career. And I unfortunately, not unfortunately, but you know, that's not it. It's a subtle, I mean, that is it. But, you know, if you're working at that level, it's going to take you a long time. What the real level of desire is this micro level that you have. When I think of my kids coming to visit, on a very micro level, there's a feeling of pleasantness, right? Right. And I'm not talking about wisdom or knowledge here. This is habit. Because of course my kids come to visit and they take over the TV, and my younger one sits in my chair, and then they want to, you know, watch something I don't want to watch, and then, you know, I want them to leave. You know, not really. I love my kids. They're really good, but they do those things, by the way. But you see, so then you could say, oh, Karuna, you shouldn't have so much desire for the television, right? But that's such a gross level. That's too hard to work at. What's a much more, I mean, subtle is hard to work at too, but it's more rewarding. So that what you're looking at then is when my younger son sits in my chair and flips the TV channels to, you know, the basketball game, which I don't mind watching sometimes, but I want to watch the football game or whatever, then it's this desire comes up, isn't it? And then I cling. So it's a micro level that when he flips on the basketball game, I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent here, but it's really not meant to be a tangent. This is meant to be how you study your mind too when you meditate. So what you're looking at here is when he flips the channel and I go, ugh, right? It's because, and then I kind of say something grumpy about how come he's controlling my TV when he's just here visiting, you know, that kind of thing. But what happens is that the moment there's an experience through the senses, isn't there? I'm either seeing him change the channel, or I'm hearing the basketball game come on. I'm in the kitchen doing something. So through one of the five senses, I'm getting feedback, and in a split second, the feedback tells me it's unpleasant. Hearing the basketball game for me is for him it's pleasant. For me, it's unpleasant. This is where we want to go in our meditation. Then you want to watch that, and then you watch it, and you become more and more microscopic in the sense of breaking it down into more and more minute phases in time. So this is the purpose of meditation, because we're not very good at breaking it down into real, tangible, bite-sized moments, are we? We do it in gross moments, you know, like every 20 seconds kind of thing, whatever. But so what we're doing in meditation is we're trying to train the mind to get quiet enough to be able to become familiar with this stuff. So you become familiar with it, and you watch as the TV channel, you know, the changes, and you hear the announcers, or see the color of the uniforms. And then you see the color of the uniform. It's not the news, but it's a basketball player. And the color, just seeing that color generates a sensation of unpleasantness. And that's distractions when I follow that. Does that make sense? So I follow that and I say, why did you change? You know, I don't like basketball at night. Anyway, I'm going to watch that game tonight. I've got it recorded. Blah, blah, blah. And you're off and you're already lost. Okay. So that's the way it works. The problem, I mean, why Buddhism is an internal spiritual path is just for that reason. I can't blame my son really for switching the channels and for me not having a good viewing experience, because that's what we do. You know, that's what we do. Excuse me. But that's not valid, is it? When we meditate, we're becoming familiar. So when we become familiar with how the mind works, getting agitated with my son is not valid, is it? Because the agitation's not in my son. Okay, the agitation is in the sense perception that I had around seeing the color of the uniforms or hearing this, the click of the channel changing or whatever. Okay, is that helpful? Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, we'll go back up here. So I just want to say that, I mean, you know, it's not necessarily go in a particular order. That seemed germane about distraction. So that's the way distractions happen. And we'll talk a little bit more about distractions in a few minutes. Any comments or questions? Oh,
I have a question, Karuna.
yes.
I do guided meditation every morning through the
Right.
through TNL,
Right.
but that's kind of my meditation. And I'm
Right.
wondering if I should also do solitary.
Okay. So I have a slide here, and I always over prepare and don't get to everything. So I apologize for that. So I'll just answer your question, and then maybe we get to that slide too. So we're talking here, it's very important what you brought up. So meditation, again, to become familiar. But we actually have 3, if not 4 kinds of meditations. So I want to say, let's say 3, because I can't remember what the 4th, I'm not sure the 4th one, if I got that one right, but 3 I know for sure. So the first one's is stabilizing meditation. Okay. Stabilizing meditation is the sort of precursor to developing calm abiding. So that's one of our tracks. Okay, so let's just say there's 2 tracks at the moment. Okay, so it's typically in the Lam Rim and in the sutra approach to Buddhism, not Vajrayana sutra. It usually just talks about stabilizing meditation or placement meditation and developing calm abiding. Placement's a nice word because it's descriptive. And then the other form of meditation is analytical meditation. Other traditions do not have analytical meditation, like the Hindu tradition or they don't seem to, I shouldn't say they don't, they probably do, but it's not so familiar. Additionally, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, of which there's 4 schools, right? We're the members of the Gelug school. So the Gelug, Kargyu, Nyingma, Shakya, they all teach analytical meditation. But when you deal with Theravada schools, like in insight meditation and those kinds of things, they do have analytical meditation. They do, but they have it in a very refined, narrow. I'm not using narrow in a negative way, but a very narrow area where they do, and they do have it. They have to have it because. So analytical meditation, which is what you're referring to, Barbara, analytical meditation is the precursor to developing penetrative insight. So we got calm abiding and penetrative insight, and often spoken as the 2 wings of a bird. Sometimes they talk about the 2 wings as being wisdom and compassion. or they talk about being, stabilizing, meditate, calm abiding, and penetrative insight, okay, or insight meditation. Okay. The way to develop insight meditation is through analysis, the critical thinking. The way to develop stabilizing meditation is through developing concentration. Okay. Developing concentration, or even single pointed concentration, which I mentioned last week, shine in Sanskrit, shine, and vipassana is insight. So, sorry, shamatha. Shine is a Tibetan word. Shamatha and vipassana. A lot of times we see vipassana institutes and stuff, and I'm sure they teach vipassana, but usually what's emphasized is developing placement meditation. Not only, but they have a lot about developing shine or shamatha, calm abiding. That's a generalization. In fact, I would say the Tibetan tradition probably overemphasizes analytical meditation, developing insight. It's interesting, and less about calm abiding. But they both accept you have to have both. You have to have both. Okay, just to jump. So analytical meditation is used in developing eventually into the meditation on shunyata, or emptiness, is arrived at through analytical meditation most of the time. So the two kinds of meditation is, as we said, just to review it, stabilizing or single pointed concentration, and calm abiding, and special insight. Now there's a third one, and the third is visualization. So visualization, mostly we're talking about the Vajrayana or Tantric approach, which other traditions don't have. It's only really, in fullness, I think it's only in the Tibetan tradition. You do see in the Chinese tradition of Buddhism, there's some Vajrayana, there's some Tantra, like Pure Land School, Amitabha. And I think even in Japan, Paolo could speak to this. When you're meditating on visualization of deities, that would fall into the category of Vajrayana. So I know they have that in Japan as well. They don't have, from my understanding, they don't. Tantra is broken down into 4 different schools, not schools, but categories or levels. And I believe in Japan, in most ways, they don't have the highest level, but I could be wrong about that. Have you seen, Paula, if they have highest yoga tantra in Japan? And we've frozen her.
Can you hear me all right? Otherwise, I'm going to type it.
Right now, we hear you.
Okay. If it gets bad, just tell me straight away, Karuna, because I type pretty fast and I can put it in the chat for everyone.
Okay, I'll get out of screen sharing.
This.
Okay, it went bad.
This mountain where I am, it's owned by. I'm gonna type.
Okay, I think I have to stop sharing, right, for people to see it. Oh no, there we go.
No, you don't. People can just click on the chat and it'll come as a pop-up.
Okay, I did it anyway. I didn't follow you. The Shingon sect and the Tendai sects are both tantric, right? Do they have highest yoga tantra though? Do you know? Yeah, so do an investigation. Do a little investigation.
No, I don't know.
Okay, so do a little investigation because I'm very curious. I don't think they do, but I'm very happy to be wrong. So in highest yoga tantra, I don't think so. We have in tantra, we have Kriya tantra, yoga tantra, sorry, Kriya Tantra. My mind went blank. Let me go down from highest Yoga Tantra, I want Charya Tantra and Kriya Tantra. I think that's it. So the three lower tantras they do, I think they might have three lowest or the bottom two. I don't know. But highest Yoga Tantra is not a class in Tantra, but let's find out if you can look into it and see. The characters of highest Yoga Tantra is when the highest Yoga Tantra is the only school or approach at which you can attain enlightenment. Eventually, you have to practice highest Yoga Tantra to attain enlightenment. The characteristic of it is seeing yourself as a deity and having the divine pride of the deity, often in union with a consort. Doesn't have to be, but you have to identify yourself, and also it will be in highest Yoga Tantra, it uses the employment of the channels, drops, and chakras. And the defining characters is the ability to meditate on yourself as the deity itself and having that permission through initiation. But I'm sure they give initiation. But so you could look at, like in the Pure Land sect, they pray to, they have meditation with Amitabha, but they're visualizing Amitabha out there usually or above their head and praying to Amitabha like that and doing Amitabha's mantras. That's Tantra, but that I believe is lowest Tantra, the Kriya Tantra. Okay. So just look into it and see what kind of practices, from the Tibetan Buddhist tankas. Well, so highest Yoga Tantra are going to be practices like Haruka, Yamataka. They can also be lower tantric practice, but Haruka, Yamataka, call it chakra, things like that. Just do a little research and we'll talk about it more. Okay.
Karuna,
Yeah.
I have a question. So in the evenings, Thubten Norbuling also does Vajrasattva practice.
Yes.
And that's visualization.
That's right.
But it's not Tantra. Is that
Yes,
correct?
It is Tantra.
It is.
Yes.
Okay. So any visualization of a deity?
Well, that's a good question. Probably. I don't know if in sutra practice, probably, but what I'm a little bit thinking about something is in the sutra, like you take a country like Vietnam. I don't think they have time. They could, but they're Mahayana, or Mahayana, or you take a country like Burma that's Hinayana based. I don't know if they visualize Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, and pray to Buddha. I wouldn't say, they might do that. I would say that's tantric influence, but I'm not sure we'd say it was a practice of Tantra. Practice of Tantra is really when you're working with the channels and the drops and the chakras and transforming yourself into deity. But, it involves the, mantra repetition, things like that. So you often find that they don't have much mantra repetition in those countries. They have prayers, but in a non-tantric base. But Vajrasattva is a tantric practice, and tantric practice like Vajrasattva can be everything from Kriya Tantra to highest Yoga Tantra. Some deities are only within certain categories. The other deities go through all four, and that's why I was mentioned to Paolo that highest Yoga Tantra deities like Haruka also have initiations into lower Tantra. By the way, in practicing Tantra, you have to have initiations. So I don't know if that's the other thing, Paolo, is that do they do initiation? Or do they transmission? They do. So yes, Barbara, those are that's a Vajra, but it's considered at the very basic level. So I think there's somehow giving people permission to do it. Usually you need an initiation.
Say I don't have an initiation.
No.
Or
Yeah. Well, traditionally you did need to have that in Tibet. But even in Tibet, yeah. But I think it's just a matter of you can't visualize yourself as Vajrasattva, for example. Yeah. You can, they say there's certain, like Shakyamuni Buddha is one that you can always visualize without any initiation, and he can actually come into you. You don't visualize yourself as Shakyamuni, but he can bless you by entering into you, that kind of thing. But with other deities, you can't do that without the initiation. Okay.
So what happens if you do that without the initiation?
I think you grow 2 noses.
Because that is part of what we do.
That's okay. It's
If
okay.
that practice
Yeah, that's
is
okay. Yeah, it's taking the blessings. But you don't have the permission to then rise up as Vajrasattva.
correct.
Yeah.
That I
yeah.
don't.
Yeah. So you need that. For that, you have to have initiation.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, where am I going?
So I was just going to ask Karuna, so back to my question. So obviously it's best to be doing both,
Yes.
shamatha and vipassana.
Yes.
And I feel I'm heavy on vipassana.
So
And not-
yeah. So what happens without the shamatha is that we all of us, have insights, right? We practice and we get insights into different parts of the teachings or whatever, and we can't maintain them. That's because we don't have concentration. You can't maintain them until you have shamatha, and you can't actually realize emptiness until you have developed shamatha. There's some debate about that. You can definitely have insight into emptiness. You can have, I believe, but you can't maintain it. You can't have it can't be experiential, for one thing. It's still conceptual. You can have the experiential one only through a deeply focused mind, which is shamatha. Now, the caveat to all this is in the Vajrayana approach, you develop shamatha and insight at the same time in that practice. That's why, and one reason I believe you don't, within a lot of Vajrayana traditions or teachers, you don't see a lot of emphasis on developing shamatha, because you're going to develop it when you practice Vajrayana. That's my belief, and other reasons. So it's the Vajrayana is a unique way to develop these meditative practices. You develop them as well there. Okay, are we good? No one asleep yet?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Very helpful.
Good. I hope I'm not wrong. Could be. Okay. So, we did that. Oh, yeah. So one good thing about being a presenter is you get to find interesting photographs. So none of this happens without training. That's the whole deal. So having this idea of developing, meditative attitude, meditative perspective, single point of concentration. We all have wishes, and what was that saying? If wishes were horses, then beggars would ride. Anyone ever hear that? My mom used to say that. I guess I had a lot of wishes. So cannot do it without training. Can't run a marathon without training. Can't run a mile without training. Can't run 100 yards on a treadmill without training. So we shouldn't be surprised that we can't do it very well. But I think one of the unique things about this training is that when you develop more and more, remember last week I was mentioning, so in developing calm abiding or single point of concentration, there's 9 different levels. When you go through developing these 9 levels, let's say you do some intensive retreats and you're developing your concentration, but you don't develop full calm abiding. You don't develop single point of concentration, but you realize, wow, my concentration's improved. When you come back, so what happens is that it is cumulative. You don't lose that. However, the caveat to that is in the beginning, and if you're doing certain purification practices, you may feel like you lost your concentration because you're so overwhelmed by emotions that arise or memories, feelings, things like that. If you ride that out and continue with your practice in a gentle way, then when those disturbing emotions eventually subside, it can be one session, it could be 3 months. Actually, bad news. But when that subsides, you do not lose your progress. So, for example, let's say that you go on a retreat once a year, and you do 1 or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and you feel like, God, I don't want to get out of retreat because I'm developing a certain level of mastery, right? And then you're going to go back to work and family and all that stuff, and you kind of have this dread. It's like dying. I'm going to die because I'm going to go back. I'm going to lose all this that I gained. You don't lose it. If you go back into retreat, well, if you've done one retreat, when you go back in the next one, it might take you 5 days. I don't know. Then next time might take 3 days. Next time 2 days. Next day 1 day, and then sometimes just 1 or 2 sessions, and you can be back and you're progressing along. Again, in the beginning stages, though, and particularly in this tradition where we're doing purification practices, then crap can come up. So you may feel like you got delayed, or you regressed, and it can feel that way. But if you stick with it, eventually you come out the other side, and your meditation quality is actually improved. And you go, wow, it's like having, I don't know, it's like having taken a nap or something. Do you know what I mean? Okay. That's my experience, and that's what I've heard. So training. So you're going to lose, if you want to lose weight, you'll lose weight if you just keep with that big blue ball thing. Yeah, so this is just the same thing. One thing about to be aware of in this practice, and I don't know where people are at, but to be aware at in this practice, we need to understand that meditation practice is designed. We're not very good at this sort of things, meaning, put it in your head right now that what we tend to do is we tend to push. That's our problem. We push. And by meaning that we push, we try really hard because that's how we get work done. That's how we achieve a career. That's how we achieve a degree, right? We work hard at it. And we work diligently, and we work focused, and so in meditation practice, it's always important to remember the analogy to a violin string. If it's too tight, it'll snap and also make terrible screeching noise. If it's too loose, it also doesn't make any music at all, right? So meditation is always this balance of this back and forth between too tight and too loose. For us, I'm going to tell you something, mostly it's too tight. We squeeze, as Lama Thubten Yeshe used to say. Don't squeeze. Okay? It's very important to relax into it. Really, remember I said last week, you should feel like if you're squeezing and you're too tight, and you look at a meditation, your cushion, and you don't want to go to it, it's because you're squeezing. If you look to your meditation cushion and you feel like, okay, I want to go over there for a little while. And remember to finish before you want to finish. If you finish after, if you push, you don't want to go back there. It's like training for a marathon. If you push too hard, you don't want to do it. Okay. Okay, so then the process of calming the mind. So I want to, another thing to be aware of in terms of distractions and in terms of calming the mind is that when you become familiar, as we look at the mind's distractions, as we were talking earlier, most distractions are about the future. Okay? Most distractions are about the future. Now, it can be past stuff that you're ruminating about. But if you look closely, it has a lot to do with thinking what you're going to do, what's going to happen. You got to fix dinner. I can't sit here anymore. I want to go, like that. It's mostly, so just be aware of that. So when you're developing your meditation practice, you're trying to put aside thoughts of the future and thoughts of the past. Thoughts of the past tend to create depression, but not always. Okay. So now I'm going to go through a few things that get in the way of our meditation practice. For one, first one is physical discomfort, right? The best way, I think, is to, I have to say this the right way. I think it's useful to push a little bit. Remember I said don't push, but I think with physical tension, slowly, like if you find that you stretch your legs out or stretch every time your body starts to get a little bit tense, I think you want to try and work through that a little bit more, a little longer, a minute or two longer. I'm kind of old school, and I think those who study with Rubina will tell you the same thing. I'm not saying I recommend this, but it does have results, positive results, which as a young, well, even not that young Buddhist, but studying with Lama Zopa Rinpoche and a lot of many traditional Lamas, Lama Zopa Rinpoche would do sessions, he'd come to teach, and it'd be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours long. And I have to say, I have a little bit of cynicism about this modern day adult learning style, which is, have you ever, those who studied it, you don't teach for more than 20 minutes. Have you heard that? Then you have to do an activity, and then you do a breakout, and then you do group dialogues, and then come back and I think there's value to it. I do it sometimes with groups, but you don't accomplish something you don't get a chance to work hard, and it is torture. It is torture. I'm not suggesting to go into that level of torture, but I did learn how to sit. I had to sit through this pain in my legs and my back and my mind wandering, and sometimes I just wanted to like yell at Rinpoche and but I'm not there anymore. I'm older, so I have other problems, but I feel I worked through a lot of stuff by just hanging in there and being a little tortured. And I'm not suggesting, what's that word? Self-flagellation, or what's the word? I mean, some people are really good, some sort of like Catholic penance or something. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying to do it to see if now, when my knees would start to hurt, it was directly related with my mind getting agitated. So there's a way to work on your mind and your body. Now, have you ever gone to a teaching or meditation when you're really, really calm and your mind's really focused? And also you don't feel the body doesn't feel so bad, does it? That's the mind-body connection. So instead of every time stretching your leg or stretching, try and see if you can tap into the mindset, the mental attitude behind, not the attitude. There's something going on in the mind of whether it's anger or agitation or impatience or sleepiness. Just try and connect. Again, meditation is about becoming familiar. Familiar with what? Familiar with the mind. So now's the time to do it. Do it in those teachings. Don't. The other thing is that when I was, until very recently, it appalled me when I started doing my psychology degree, and I go to classes and people were bringing drinks in there and food, and they sit around, eat their food while they, in Nepal, tradition, I'm talking about tradition, I say, what? Never do that. Now I do, you might bring a cup of tea in or something. I wouldn't eat food, but, I have my water and tea with you guys, but there again, why are we doing that? Because we're agitated. So with physical tension, discomfort, you can also do a body scan. I think everyone knows about that. Just kind of go into looking where the tension is and just breathe into it, or just release the tension through the exhalation. Or you can visualize your body as hollow and clear. That's very powerful. And then it's sort of the tension just sort of dissolves into light. Even the body can dissolve into light. Okay. The other thing is observe the pain. We've got to stop being so weak. This is the way of getting tough. I usually don't talk like that, by the way. But I've become a little bit more of that angle than just being too soft. Because the afflictions are painful anyway. Then another way of doing it is you increase the pain. So in the Mahayana practice, you can also think about taking on the pain of all living beings, all their knee problems, all their back problems. You take it on. This is a profound practice, and at least start trying this stuff. Not torture yourself. That's not the point. But kind of more in a sort of an enjoying way. Is that fair to say? It's profound. It increases your compassion for others. Okay, and then so the two most common, we're going to talk about this probably again many times. So when you're developing single pointed concentration, the two primary problems are being distracted and sleepiness or dullness. So they call the technical terms are laxity and excitement. Those are some of the two words they use. Okay, do you want to know about these, what to do about these? Anyone interested? Is this helpful? Let's stop sharing for a minute and talk.
I always think that reviews are good.
Okay.
For me, they're good.
Yeah, for me too. Anybody else want me to do something different? Yeah, I can handle it. Is this too basic? Is it helpful or not helpful? Is this not helpful? How about that? What's Kim saying? I think she's waving at me like, go home or something.
I've fallen asleep on more than one occasion. So
Kim has trouble finding her unmute button.
Okay.
No, I think repetition is very, very useful for me. So don't feel like it's too basic.
Please interrupt me if I do. And yeah, thank you. Boyd, how about you?
I was going to say that various people have different pointers, and you learn from different people different ways to do things. And I've fallen asleep on more than one occasion, so any pointer's good.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm very happy. People just chime in if it's again redundant or too basic, and then if or whatever. Okay. So I'm very happy to adjust. Okay. Thanks, guys, gals. So okay. I can do it fast too. Okay, so being distracted, and also we always hear something new. And by the way, I've been doing this relatively long time, and in preparing for this class, I reread this stuff, and it's the same as what you guys are saying. I need the repetition, and I also find something new. Okay. So with distractions, mainly distractions are through the five senses. Okay, and then primarily it's sounds, thoughts, sounds, and sensations. So all of these, perfect concentration doesn't come till much later. So I think it's like what we're doing, the ABCD method, where it's very powerful. Don't fight these distractions. Don't fight the thoughts and sounds. I do fight them sometimes. It doesn't work. You could get earplugs, if you really don't if sounds are really a problem, or you're in a noisy area, or you live in a house that people are not so quiet. What are they called? Usually doesn't work for me, right? Earplugs don't work for me. I don't know why. I still hear stuff. So then if your mind is focused, by the way, you don't hear this stuff, right? It's like when you're reading a really good book, you don't hear the television going on in the background if you're really into the book. So the point is that as our concentration improves, then these things become less intrusive. And then the idea is to just let them arise and fall away. Okay, so you have to just keep at it. Remember my thing about the violin. don't be tight. The noises get louder. The thoughts get more intrusive. The sensations get more painful. Okay? The more we tighten. So it's like, I tell you something, that one of the things that gets us to tighten is we have an agenda. And the agenda is, okay, Karuna said I should meditate on my breath for 3 rounds of 10. And then, oh God, there that noise is again. My neighbor's hammering his roof. I did a retreat I've done many retreats, or not many, I've done retreats in my house. I have a nice meditation room, and it's a loft up there. And so sounds come into it more easily. And one time I did a retreat, I had a 3-week retreat, and my next door neighbor, we're not, he's a little ways away, but not that far, decided he was going to replace his roof. So there's not much quiet building in a roof, I found out. You don't use quiet saws, you don't use quiet hammer guns, you don't use quiet hammers. And also, you're up there all day, you're gonna put the radio on, and yeah. So sometimes it bothered me, sometimes it didn't. Okay, then you want to, again, do the ABCD, you want to notice the mind has wandered. Okay, that is an achievement. Just watch it. Don't squeeze and don't try too hard. Like, I got to focus. That's not going to work. It's going to make it worse. Just gently bring it back and include it in the meditation. Okay. There's other things you can do more advanced around meditating on sound, by the way, but we won't go into it at the moment. So then also focus on the breath, and label. So you keep the focus on the breath. This happens in more developed in calm abiding and mindfulness. True mindfulness practice is a lot of mindfulness practice is presented as focusing on the breath or focusing on something, but that's not complete. So another part of mindfulness practice is there's 2 other factors to mindfulness practice, true mindfulness practice, in developing calm abiding. One is concentration, which we're talking about. The other is a little part of the mind that notices distractions. It notices the quality of the mind. So it also notices if it's falling asleep. Then another part of mindfulness is just being aware if the mind is being focused, staying on the focus. It's reminding. So one is looking at the quality of the mind. The other is reminding the mind, bringing the mind back to its focus. Those are 2 different functions, 2 different mental factors. For those of you who are into mental factors, okay. So all you do is you just label it. You just label it TV, or sound. It's good to give a label that's not judgmental, like noisy sound. It's better to say sound, okay. Or talking, that sort of thing. Okay, just make a mental note, try to bring it back to the breath. Don't engage with it, and don't give it too much weight by saying how bad it is, or you're pissed off because the person has the television going so loud. It is annoying, but there's no choice. It's time to get over our annoying, and I'm speaking to myself too, by the way. It's important to get over our annoying mentality. We get bugged because someone cuts in front of you in the checkout line. Yeah, I just covered that. Oh, sensations too, an itch, a pain, emotion, you can say sadness, excitement. Very powerful when you start doing this. Then that remember the monkey on the woman's leg? Okay, when you do this, there's less clinging. There's less clinging. Okay. Sadness is not a problem. It's the clinging to it that's a problem. I want something else. Okay. So impermanence is really super, super helpful. But it's almost like you change, okay. So it's almost like you change the focus. So I want to say something back to Barbara's earlier point. about analytical meditation. So Barbara, this is an example of, is meditating on impermanence an analytical meditation, or is it a stabilizing meditation?
I would classify it as analytical.
Correct. But that'd be a shame, because that's the way we teach it, right? So every analytical meditation, I'm getting ahead of myself by 2 or 3 or 4 classes, but every analytical meditation is designed to help develop stabilizing meditation. So in fact, impermanence is not just a concept, is it? It's a reality, right? It's a conventional reality. So it is an object of stabilizing meditation as well. Now, sometimes when you're developing stabilizing meditation, you don't want a moving object. That's true. You want something that's fixed, like a concept. But other times, when your mind becomes very, very, very more calmer and more focused, you have the experience of just watching the mind. If you watch the mind, you begin to see that it's a moving phenomenon. And you go, wow, that's impermanence. Okay. Now, I think that this gets lost in our teachings, that we teach impermanence about, the changing of the colors of the trees, the decay of our houses, the aging of our cars, the growing up of our kids, aging, our bodies getting more, more feeble, or we're aging. That's how it's usually, but that's gross impermanence. That's not subtle impermanence. Subtle impermanence, which we cannot perceive at the moment because of our obscurations, but subtle impermanence is reality. Everything around you, just about everything is in a state of movement, isn't it? If you look around your room, is there anything that's not is there anything not made up of molecules and atoms? If it is, it's moving. And if it's moving, why don't we see it? Okay, so these are going into our teachings on emptiness, and other teachings on psychology, but we don't see it, do we? So the reason we don't see it is our minds are not subtle enough. They're not focused enough. The way they become subtle is through meditation. The more we develop single-pointed concentration or calm abiding, then we will begin to see these things. We begin to see reality, even conventional reality. We begin to see impermanence. We begin to see death. We begin to see this precious human life. We begin to see karma. So non-conceptually, that's what we're trying to get to. The non-conceptual experience of karma, the non-conceptual experience of impermanence, the non-conceptual experience of death, the non-conceptual experience of all beings being my mother, the non-conceptual experience of love and compassion, non-conceptual experience of the awakening mind. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. And until we do that, we have to have it conceptually. So we have these little formulas we use, like meditating on impermanence, and it's a formulaic. Okay, but that's not the actual meditation on impermanence. Through analyzing impermanence in those formulas like that, the mind will get stimulated and you'll have an aha experience. Then you forget, you stop analyzing, and you take your single point of concentration, your concentration, and you focus on that aha. You focus on the non-conceptual experience of impermanence as best you can. It'll always have some conception mixed in, probably, for a while. But you understand what I mean? You drop all the analyzing part at that point and focus on the insight. Does that make sense? Okay. Just give up the clinging. So don't cling to it being a quiet house. If we don't cling to it being quiet, the noise won't bother us. If it was the noise that was the problem, then my kids out there watching television would have a problem too, right? Because the noise is the problem. but they're not, they're having a good time. So again, it's my relationship to the noise. And I don't have the right relationship because I'm clinging. I know many, many students and practitioners, they're so uptight in their practice because they'll complain. And I understand it's hard. I'm not saying I'm above it. I'm not above it either. But the formula is not, they complain about, it's not quiet enough. They need to wear earplugs, or they need to get their partner to stop doing the dishes at 9 o'clock at night when they're doing a session, or they need to, when they get up in the morning, figure out a way. One person was telling me that when she got up in the morning, she couldn't meditate because right at 7:30, the guy across the street would start his truck up. Let's pick up, I don't know what kind of truck, and then let it run for a half hour. I don't know why. And neighbors had asked him to not do that, and he did it more. So it's like, you know what I mean? I guess he wasn't a very nice guy, or in that way he wasn't nice. So you see, what are we going to do? We have prison projects, right? Prison, the one thing I always hear, the worst thing about, well, not the worst, but one of the bad things about prison is how noisy it is all the time. What are you going to do? Not develop a practice? Okay. And eventually our concentration gets so good that that stuff doesn't bother us. So the nature of the mind, of course, the human mind has both positive and negative sides, but the negative is transient, very temporary. Your up and down emotions are like clouds in the sky. Beyond them, the real, basic human nature is clear and pure. I'll go back to that in a minute. So dealing with noise, there's always noise. I did a retreat up at about, it must have been about 9 or 10, 11,000 feet in Nepal in the Himalayas. And it was quiet, but then the wind would blow. And then I remember way up there seeing jets go across the sky. This is 1976. Now at Lauda, where Lama Thubten Yeshe's cave is, they have a generator. I think my daughter was up there a couple of years ago, and she was texting me from up there, 15,000 feet. I was really disappointed, by the way. It was like it burst my dream, because, but as Lama Zopa says, he says, no, there's nowhere where there's no noise. Okay, so better not to be attached. Okay. Now, internal noise also. Noisy thoughts won't stop. The harder you try, the louder they get. So relax. Just ignore them. That takes training and practice. Just that labeling thing, like they rise, they abide, and they fall away. If you watch that, then they just lose their power. When they arise and they abide and they don't go away, is because of the clinging. Stop sticking to them. Sticking to them by being interested in them, sticking to them by being upset by them, sticking to them by being disturbed by them, sticking to them by being fascinated with, oh yeah, dinner. I want to say, oh yeah, I can smell dinner's cooking. It smells like pasta, like that. That's clinging. Just let it come, arise, and fall away. It's very powerful. Okay. Do you know the 9-round breathing practice? Everybody know that? Okay, so I don't need to review it, right? Anybody need a review? Boyd or Paula? I don't.
Karuna, I have a question about it.
Okay.
I've done it with being led by different people. Does it matter which side is which? In terms of, do you know what I'm asking?
Okay, let's do it. I'll just do it the way I was taught. Okay?
Okay.
I don't think it matters. Honestly, I don't see why it would matter.
Between the right channel or the left channel is not okay.
I don't think so. So we'll just do it because I'm not sure if everyone knows. So we'll just review it. So in the 9-round breathing, so if you start your meditation, just before you start, you do the 9-round breathing, or you can do it after you do your motivation. But so usually I say, take this index finger. Some people say like this, but I've always was taught you take like this part, the knuckle part, and you close off the left nostril, and you inhale deeply. Then you close the right nostril with the same finger, and you exhale through the left nostril. Then you close the left nostril, inhale deeply through the right. Hold it just a sec, just a little hold, and out through the left. All the way out. In through the right, closing the left. Hold it for just a sec, and then out through the left. Now, some people say you switch hands, but you can use the same finger. Inhale through the left. You can still use the right hand if you want. Hold it at a sec, and out through the right. In through the left. Out through the right. Hold it a sec, and then out through the right. In through the left. Hold it a sec, and out through the right. And put your hands back in your lap, right hand on top of the left. Thumbs touching, and then you do through both nostrils. Hold it a moment, and exhale. Again. The mind automatically, it helps the mind calm down, right? Now, there's additions to this, as Barbara was alluding to. An add-on. So first, get familiar with that. Comfortable. And then, which we won't do, but I'll tell you the description. Well, we can do it. So now you visualize from your nostrils up through the forehead, like an umbrella handle, is a little very narrow, hollow channels, and it goes up through your kind of up toward like an umbrella handle, a little bit up towards the crown, and then goes down your spine. Those are two, and in between them is a wider tube channel. Those two ones from the nostrils, they join down join the middle one just below the navel. This is, I mean, there's a lot of teachings on this, so I don't want to go into too much detail. So you just visualize two clear tubes, three tubes. One, the right and left ones are narrower. They come up from the nostrils, come up a little bit through the forehead and come back, okay, kind of make a loop and come back down right along the side, the central channel. Okay. And then they join at the navel. The central channel runs from your anus up to the crown of your head. Again, don't get too technical in this. So now close the right channel, left nostril. And when you inhale, visualize inhaling white, radiant white light. It goes down, up and down through that right channel, crosses over to the left channel when you exhale. I'll walk you through in a second. And when you exhale all this dirty air, dark light going out through the left channel, through your left nostril. Okay, so let's try it. So inhale through the right, radiant light. Flows down the right channel. Hold it for a moment right where the two channels meet in the central channel. Then close the right channel, exhale. And the left channel clears out and becomes radiant light also with all the dirty winds going out through your left channel. Do it again. Hold for a sec. Exhale, all the dirty airs pushed out by the white light, radiant light. One more time. Out through the left. Hold for a sec. Then out through the left. Now inhale through the left, closing off the right nostril. Radiant right light. Hold for a sec at the juncture, then out through the right. And then the right tube becomes radiant, clear. It's like clear white light out through your right nostril. Again through the left. Out through the right. In through the left. Out to the right. Put your hands in your lap, the thumbs touching. And now just do through both nostrils, white light radiating up and down, up first and down, joining at the central channel. Hold for a moment where they join, and then the white light just flows up through your central channel. Eliminate all the dark airs, the winds. Do it again. One more time. And now just relax in the clarity of your body, mind. Just relax in it. The focus is the clarity. Clarity. Like Lama Yeshe says, your basic, pure nature. As you watch your breath, seeing the clarity, just natural sense flowing down the two channels and up through the central channel, generating more clarity. Everything's in the nature of clarity, thoughts, sounds, sensations. There's nothing fixed, nothing static. Everything moves in clarity through the clarity of your mind. Since everything is formless, arising in the mind, arises, abides, and disappears. There's nothing to cling to. How do you cling to the mist of the mind? Okay, then slowly come back into your body. Solidity, concrete, sorry about that. But it doesn't stay that way. So now you just maintain in the break times, you've seen everything in the nature of that clarity, in the nature of mind. Okay? Mm. Okay. Thank you very, 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 very much. Any questions?
The question that I have, Karuna, is, do you sometimes do that then with the 3 poisons?
You can do that with, yes. There's many, many, many iterations of that, right? So you can, many different iterations where where you see different color, the channels at different colors, right? Red, blue, and white. And that changes around. I think the anger side, them three poisonous minds, anger, attachment, and ignorance. I hope I don't get this wrong, but I believe the right side is anger. I believe the right. It's just, I gotta think for a minute.
And that's what I was asking. Is that significant?
That part's a little bit significant.
Okay, and that's what
But
I,
it's
that's
not,
what my
but it's
question.
not, but it's not inherently true, because depending on different practices, they might switch that around. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. Anyway, I might have to, I'll research it, but for the moment, we'll just say right side is the affliction of anger, left side is attachment.
And is that exhaling or inhaling?
No, because it's just that right channel, often described as red, and a red tone. It changes. See, I'm a little bit shy to say what color it is, but sometimes it's identified as red. And so when you inhale, then you exhale the anger out through the left channel.
Okay,
Inhale the left channel, you exhale the attachment out through the right channel, I believe. But there's many, many ways to do it. And different tantric practices have the same 9-round breathing. They completely mix it up. I'll do a little research though, because I don't want to give wrong information. The central channel is always the ignorance channel. Let me see if I can find. Let me see if I can find a little more detail on it. Because I don't want to give you the wrong information. But the colors of the channels also change depending on the practice. Sometimes the central channel is the blue one, and the left channel is the white. But ignorance is always in the center. It's just these channels obviously do have some sort of color. Sorry, I'm sounding a little bit vague on it. I'll do my research. Okay. Anything else? Any other question I can botch up?
Is this a bad time to ask about the 3 cleansing breaths? Because you inhale the light and you exhale the dark, and
Yeah.
I always do that when you're previously talking about falling asleep or getting clouded. I'll take 3 cleansing breaths, and it wakes me up and invigorates me. And
Definitely.
But it seems to tie in with the light and the dark, inhaling and exhaling.
Yeah, I'll go real quickly next week because I have a little more detail on that, Boyd. So thank you for bringing that up. There's a few other things that we can build on those practices that do eliminate sleepiness. It can also eliminate the distraction. So we're always sort of dancing around excitement and laxity, and working on this as we get more subtle. And there are different breathing and meditation practices to confront them. They're not that different, really. But I'll share a couple more next week when we meet.
Yeah, I was just wondering if they were related.
Which one? Say it again.
The light and the dark.
Yeah.
The light, the dark, and then the versus the sides.
I'm not following. Sorry. Say it again. So, say it again.
Oh,
So the light. Let me say this, and then ask your question again. That the exhaling of the dark is because the afflictions, like anger and attachment, jealousy, and all those things, tend to be referred to in the tantras are referred to as dirty winds, dirty prana. And so when we use the light, the radiant light, those are clean prana. The prana. So even that will be our experience as we purify more and more, we will experience, this sort of purity and clarity and clear light quality. And even then in practice of tantric practices, that the lights, you use light, many green, blue, yellow, all kinds of different purifying lights and radiant lights, but they're always in the sense of that radiance. Whereas the afflictions are not radiant. They're referred as like dirty winds. So it's just at the imagination level when we're doing it, you are imagining, and it can go beyond imagination, of course. you're imagining that this light that's coming, that you're inhaling, so to speak, is a pure light. It's a radiant light, whether it's radiant red, green, blue. It changes depending on the practice we're doing. And the exhaling is always exhaling the dirty winds, which is the nature of fog or tar or ink. It depends. People have different visualization works. For me, it's like a kind of pollution. Like
I guess I tend to forget a lot of the analytical details, and I just start interrelating the two practices, the left and the right.
Yeah.
In with good, now with the bad.
Yeah,
versus.
I think I'm the same. I get too. I'm the same because I find it too. My mind gets a little tense when I try to be too technically right. So I don't think until you're actually doing a formal tantric practice, then you can't really mix up the stuff too much. But I think it's more at our level, not just feeling, but if that works for you, just do it. If it generates clarity in your mind, then that you're doing the right thing. I think it's a little dangerous to say these things are fixed. Like, yeah, it's one of my values is to pass on to people, particularly Buddhist students, that be a little lighter. Don't be slack, don't be loose, don't be but just a little bit relaxed. And if it works, it works. We're looking for the result of clarity in this case, and calmness. Anything else? Okay. So I forgot to motivate in the beginning, so I'm a very bad teacher. Earplugs. Yeah. So I'm very bad in that way, but we can dedicate. So in terms of dedication, we have to be pretty careful, because when we do these practices, it's very easy to do them for just momentary happiness. Like, I really want to feel clear right now. I want to feel calm right now. That's not really a spiritual practice in terms of the Buddhist context. What makes a spiritual practice is not the practice, it's the motivation. It's the motivation and the intention. So we spent that 2 hours together, motivating that we develop a single point of concentration, understanding how to meditate. In order to meditate is not just to feel good. That's okay. Byproduct of feeling good is great. But really, we're trying to tame the mind so that we can work and help other beings tame their minds. So dedicate like that, all this merit and this positive energy. And if you have particular personal dedications, like long lives of your teachers, or the well-being of your family, loved ones, that's fine. That's good. But just keep remembering that why we're doing this is to get long-term, permanent, eternal mental health. So just for a moment, you dedicate like that. And that the power of this time together particularly develops the awakening mind, my own mind, to attain full awakening, so that I can liberate all living beings, not just for myself. For as long as space endures, as long as sentient beings abide, may I too remain to relieve the suffering of the world. Okay. Thank you. See you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.